This lesson is going to focus on setting up our system for this particular course. The first thing we're going to do is install the Oracle XE environment. Now, to be honest, we are not going to be installing the Oracle XE system in this lesson. This is going to be something that you're going to have to do on your own. What I am going to do, however, is show you a couple steps that you need to pay particular attention to. Once you understand this, then you can pause the video, you can install Oracle XE and pick up where we left off. But it's a pretty standard installation, and the nice thing is that we are giving you the file for you to download so that you don't have to go navigate through Oracle's website. So just keep that in mind. We are not going to be installing it together. It's something you're going to have to do. The next thing we will do is install the SQL Developer application. Now this is something that we are going to do together. The neat thing about the SQL Developer is that it's really not an installation. It's literally just copying some files onto your hard drive. I'm going to show you how where I copy these things and how I set up my system, because I have a very particular way that I like to have my PC set up, and maybe you do too. And if you like the way I've done it, well, then you can follow along as well. The last thing we are going to do is complete our workstation setup. And this is going to consist of working with our database scripts and also actually running those scripts so that we create the tables and fill them with data. And that's something we will be doing together. And we will be using the SQL Developer application to do so. It's pretty cool. Now, before we install Oracle XE, there are a couple things that we need to pay attention to. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that you do have a download link on this course for you to download the Oracle XE 112 win32.zip. Now, keep this in mind. This course, or in this course, I am assuming that you are going to be working in the Windows environment. If you are working in the Windows environment, then you can just download this file from the website and execute it the way you would normally execute any setup. If you're running, say, Linux or some other operating system, unfortunately, you will have to go to the Oracle website and find the Oracle XE download for that operating system, download it, install it, and all of that. Okay? Now, I've already navigated through the Oracle website, and believe me, that website, I love Oracle. Oracle, I love you guys. You make some amazing stuff, but your website, wow. There are so many tools and so many different pages on that thing. Trying to find the Oracle XE is like trying to find a needle in the haystack. So we've gone out and I've already found it for you. Just download it, knock your socks. Because if you have to go to the Oracle website, drink some coffee because you're going to need it. Now, the other thing that we need to pay attention to are the system requirements. Now again, these are the system requirements for a Windows environment or for a Windows machine. And you have to make sure that your system matches or actually fits these minimum requirements for this to actually work. So, the first thing you need to understand is which operating system are you going to be working with. Now the nice thing is with Oracle XE, it works with Microsoft Windows 2000, Service Pack 4, or later. Now, I don't know anybody who's still using Microsoft Windows 2000, but if you are, as long as you have Service Pack 4 installed, you're good to go. Most of you are going to be running like Windows XP, maybe Windows Vista, doubt it, Windows 7 or Windows 8. If you have any of those operating systems, it's going to work. The next requirement that we have is the amount of disk space that you have. Now remember that Oracle is an enterprise solution. There's a lot to it. So you need to have some disk space. Now most hard drives are pretty large, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. But you need 1.75 gigabytes of free space minimum. Now please remember that we are working with the database. Now the exercises that we are going to be using in this course, they're very small. But in a real world environment where you're going to start working with real data, you're going to need a lot more than 1.75 gigabytes on your hard drive as free space so that that database can grow and shrink and just basically live. So keep that in mind. The amount of memory is also very important. Now the nice thing is that Oracle XE can run on 512 megabytes of RAM. I don't know anybody who's running 512 anymore, but the rule of thumb is the more RAM, the better the performance. So if you have, say, 4 gig of RAM, you're probably going to be okay. You don't need to worry about it. Then you need the network setup. The network setup, this is very important. The TCP/IP network protocol must be configured and working. It needs this so that it can communicate, so that we can communicate with the database. So don't worry about it too much. Just make sure that you have your TCP/IP network protocol initiated. Most systems automatically have this, so if you don't understand TCP/IP, chances are you're probably not going to need to worry about it. But for any DBAs out there, you already know you need to have this. And then the last one is really kind of a moot point, internet access. It's not mandatory, but it's recommended. But if you're watching this video, guess what? You have internet access. This isn't local. You're working off of the web, so you're good to go. So, now, when you go to launch Oracle XE, so let's say you've downloaded that zip file that was on that link, you've expanded it, you extracted all those files, and you launch the setup.exe. As long as you run setup, it's going to be a fairly normal setup routine. It's going to ask you where you want to install, blah, blah, blah. It's going to ask you a bunch of stuff. But when you get to this screen right here, this is where you have to pay very close attention. This is probably the most important screen that you're going to have for the entire Oracle installation. And what it's asking you is specify the database password. Now this is the grand poobah password for you to work with Oracle. So what I did is it says enter password. Well, guess what? My password is password. So when it asks, hey, enter the password, that's the actual word that I'm going to type in, password. Now this works fine if this is your local machine and you're going to do nothing more than run this course. By all means, make your password as stupid as you want to make it. But in the real world, and all DBAs will agree with me on this, this password is extremely important. You want to make sure that it is very cryptic yet meaningful to you. So you want to make it so it's a very strong password, because this, like I said, is the grand poobah password. It's the big kahuna. It's the one that's going to rule them all. So make sure that you have a meaningful yet strong password. But like I said, for this machine, since this is only used for these courses and for basically for showing you, I don't need a really strong password. No one's ever going to use this machine except for me. So make sure that you keep track of that password. It's very, very important. After you put in the password, it's going to do a bunch of steps and it's going to install Oracle for you. It's going to preset this password for you. It's going to do a lot of things. But then the last screen is also equally important. And the last screen is the summary. And the summary is basically outlining everything that you did or everything that it did to install Oracle onto your system. And you're going to see that the destination was C Oracle, blah, blah, blah. The first three are not that big of a deal. It's basically just saying, here's where I put some stuff for you on your hard drive, on your local hard drive. The last three, however, are the ports. So here's what you need to think about. Whenever you work with a Windows environment or a Windows system, there are ports that are open or closed. And these are identified by some numeric value. Do not confuse these ports with like a USB port or a network port or anything like that. These are software ports that are available to the system. And right here you can see that the port for the Oracle Database Listener is 1521. So 1521, that port is open for the Database Listener. The Oracle Services for Microsoft Transaction Server is in 2030. And then the last one is the port for the Oracle HTTP Listener, which is in 8080. Now, I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about what these ports mean or what they're for, but what you'll want to do if you are a DBA is you're going to want to write down what those ports are. Now, they're pretty standard. Almost every single installation uses those exact same ports, but it's a good thing still to write it down so that you have those, because in some situations, maybe it's a little bit different or maybe you've changed it. So it's just something for you to be aware of. So, like I said, during the Oracle installation, the two screens that you need to keep track of are the password and the summary. As long as you keep track of that, you're probably pretty good to go. So now let's talk about the next step in our setup. Or actually, before I go any further, go ahead, download that Oracle XE, expand it, launch setup, and just pay attention to all of the steps that it's asking you. You can keep the standards, that's fine. You can keep the standard locations, it's no big deal. But when you get to that password, please make sure you have a valid password, and then just keep track of those ports. I'll be here when you're finished. Okay, so now you're probably done doing the installation.